In today's video, we've got a bit of stimulus talk from Joe Biden. We're also going to be having a look at Chinese stocks, Bitcoin, and what we've heard from the Fed overnight. Hello and welcome to another acysecurities daily report video. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be a host through today's trading journey. The first thing we're looking at today is stimulus. We're talking about hearing what the fiscal plan is from Joe Biden today. Now, the president-elect has dedicated or given a little bit of time for us this morning in the early hours, and we will be expecting to get a bit more of a plan on it as part of a two-phase program. Now, what the biggest challenge towards this is, and I suppose to a certain degree, this is a bit of a political challenge, the first one for Joe Biden as he's about to head into the presidency. Now, what we've seen so far is that of most presidents who try and put a stimulus plan forward, in their very first one, it usually gets rejected on the Republican side. So it'll be interesting to see how many Republicans will actually go for this sort of bill to try and help support the economy. At this stage, it's slated to be between $1.9 and $2 trillion in his plan in total expenditure. Already, we are seeing investors starting to price it in on equity markets, obviously because it is likely going to support equities and their prices for a little while to come yet. Now, moving on, we've also seen some news out of China. Stocks have tumbled down a little bit. The CSI 300 fell the most it has in 4 months. We've also seen it fall from a 13-year high. So it ended up closing 1.9% lower. Consumer discretionaries fell 3.9% overall, and we've seen losses focus mainly on some of those money-making winners that have been covering through 2020 and the pandemic. Companies like Great Wall, Motor Co, and Shanghai Tourist Mart both fell 10%. So there was a little bit more bias towards some of those companies that we would consider to be high flyers. We also saw the Star 50 index actually rise just a fraction at 2.9%, but overall, that's obviously a little bit of a different exchange to be looking at. Now, going forward a little bit further, we've seen that UBS wants a piece of Paytm. And this is important for a couple of different reasons. Paytm has already got some investment from Alibaba and a number of other investor groups that have been supporting its growth so far. When it first went to market, it had a valuation close to $16 billion. So what is it exactly? It's a digital payment service, if you could guess, with the name being Paytm, but that is also happens to be India's most valuable startup, which means we're starting to see investor organizations trying to move into emerging market finance entities to try and get a boost of spending. Obviously, with India set to grow over the next year and potentially much longer into the future with one of the largest populations on the globe, it's no wonder there are lots of investment opportunities coming out of there. So have a look at some of those emerging markets, maybe have a look at the Indian Stock Exchange and see if you can pick yourself up the next best winner. Now, looking at Bitcoin, this is a trade from our FinLogics that I posted up there a couple of days ago. We have moved up to a nearly target high. We can see from the pattern that I've got described on the chart behind me that there is in fact a double bottom pattern that has presented itself. So technical analysis has won out again over the fundamentals. But a part of the reasoning for this trade that I took, I did think with a fundamental basis. However, it was very basic in its beliefs. The idea here is we saw Bitcoin hit an all-time high. And much like we did last time, we saw the big fall that happened straight after. And then we've now seen a little bit of a recovery happen, that test to see if it can push the high a little bit further. And this play is one that I enjoy using. Every time I see Bitcoin ramp itself up, I wait for it to fall and then try and get in on just a little bounce back up again so that I can find where the top might be and where the first point of support will end up being. Now, moving on, we've heard from Fed Powell this morning. He's been talking about the idea of interest rates. A lot of investors have been quite concerned about what's going on with inflation levels. We've seen inflation starting to tick up just fractionally. It's really creeping its way up a little bit at the moment, but it's still very, very, very low. And we're also seeing some of those treasury yields starting to rise. They've been hovering above 1% for more than a week so far. So at this stage of the game, there was a lot of investors sort of looking at the idea of, okay, well, perhaps with yields coming up, inflation's going to come up with it as well, and we might end up seeing some tapering of our asset purchase programs or perhaps even some adjustment of interest rates. At this stage, Powell has turned around and said we're going to be running our inflation hot beyond 2% for some time in order to get some recovery, and it won't be until that time that we will actually consider making some of the changes to policy that's going to affect the overall economy through those asset purchase programs and through the interest rates as well. So we can be comfortable for the time being that there is not going to be further policy action that is going to taper the economy off in any way, shape, or form for at least a little while to come yet. Now, that's really all there is in today's video. However, we do have a bit of news coming out today. Obviously, we've got Joe Biden's stimulus package coming. We are going to get the details of his first phase of the plan and potentially a part of the second plan as well. We're going to be seeing GDP, manufacturing production, and a couple of other production figures out of the UK, plus goods and trade balance figures as well. And tonight we'll be seeing US retail sales, US University of Michigan consumer sentiment figures, and we're also going to be seeing GDP out of China. As a side note as well, when we look at what's going on with news in the overnight, we saw the unemployment claims tick up marginally, back up close to the million mark for the week. So we are seeing some signals that there are issues in the US economy, particularly on the employment bandwagon. Now, if you have any questions or want to get in contact with me from today's video or any of my other videos or webinars that I do offer, then please feel free to send me a message via any of my social media channels, which are listed on the picture behind me. And don't forget to like and subscribe this video so you can get more great information from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.